House sparrows.
You guys got a black area? Come guys, you're our last ones. Yeah, everybody's boarded.
Just cleaning up, eh?
At Toronto Pearson, we've deployed a multi-layered approach to protect the health of our passengers and employees. Please wear your mask at all times and maintain a safe distance from others whenever possible. À l'aéroport Pearson de Toronto, nous avons mis en œuvre une approche polyvalente dont le but est de protéger la santé de nos passagers et de nos employés. Veuillez porter votre masque en tout temps et rester à distance sur les autres s'il est possible de le faire.
Just goes to show you, always have sunflower seeds in your pocket, no matter where you go.
Hello, this is the final boarding call for WestJet Flight 2650 to Puerto Vallarta. All guests on this flight need to be at gate B24.
Isn't that cute?
Thank you. WestJet 2650 à
He's not worried at all.
de Puerto Vallarta. Tous les invités avec une place confirmée doivent se rendre à la porte B24 pour l'embarquement immédiat. Merci.
You see these sparrows? Where'd they go? There's one over there. Cute, eh? Yes, we had a wonderful breakfast. I thought it was included in the flight in the room, but no. It was one more add-on. So we just have to smile about it and say, well, isn't that interesting? So there's no sense getting upset about it because it doesn't do any good. Only I felt very upset. Anyway. So,
Can I borrow your pen?
you may.
Where it is?
It's in my journal. Right there.
Ah.
So good morning, good morning. It's like returning to the pandemic, wearing masks again. Oh well, keeps us safe and everybody else. I think we might be supposed to mask for a while after being international. Oh well. Not much sleep. It was a really soft bed though. The cushion on top was about 2 inches or so thick. It was so nice. It was a heavenly bed, I guess. And let's see, I dropped my head to the pillow at about 1 a.m. And I think it was 4:45 when I woke up, or something like that. Hello, Corrine. So here we are in Toronto. It turns out, this is interesting, that yesterday, the reason that there was so much problem is the ArriveCan app. So there's this thing you have to go online to work on. Took Willem 2 days to do it.
No, that's not quite.
No?
It's not quite an accurate story.
Oh.
That takes too long to explain.
Anyway, he was working on it for a long time, at times on several days, and very frustrated. But eventually we did it. So that was the problem, was the ArriveCan, and then there were those thousands of people that were waiting to get through that line to pass through it and get a sticker on your on the back of your passport and to get a piece of paper. And it tried to take my photo. Remember, it wouldn't take my photo? That was supposed to be on the paper as well. But I got a black X. X marks the spot. Anyway, so because of the arrive can, it backed up that room, and then it backed up the escalator. So both escalators were turned off to keep from packing more people into that already huge sardine bowl. And, you know, like, talk about spreading COVID. Nobody could 6 feet distance. If anybody had it, we all may have gotten it. Whatever, maybe it's not much out there. But anyway, so the idea of keeping Canada safe was going to spread it as a super spreader, I think. But, and so it backed up the escalators, and they shut down all international flights coming into the Toronto airport. They had to sit in their seats in the airplane until there was enough room, until that mess was cleared up enough that they could bring more people in. So that's why they let us get off the plane first, because we were connecting flights. And because of this whole mess with the can Arrive Can app, Arrive in Canada, it's an app, Arrive Can. And because of that and how many people could miss their flights, every single hotel in all of Mississauga, and I assume Brampton, because Brampton is closer to the airport, they were all booked solid. There were no vacancies in the entire city. Can you imagine that? Of course, you know, it's also a Friday night, and so people come to Brampton a lot, or Mississauga, for tournaments and games and stuff. So that's what the problem was. It was the Arrive Can app, the backlog, and how slow it was to get everybody through, and how many things we had to do. We had to scan our passports, and we had to do this other thing and get a ticket and a stamp. And that's why the whole long line was. So no wonder. I didn't go down the escalator because I couldn't imagine carrying my bags down a broken escalator. I didn't realize that it was jam-packed at the bottom of the escalator, and that's why it was turned off. But later I saw people walking down. But we went down the elevator and thinking that, you know, that would be good and that it would speed us up. It didn't speed us up at all. We were just at the bottom of the escalator in a big mass with everybody else. It was quite a mess. It was a pretty good night for the Toronto airport, or Toronto hotels, though. Also, the Toronto airport has shut down one of two very important runways, and it's shut down until autumn, because they're going to redo it and make it better for 30 years. It'll be good, or something like that. They do pretty good infrastructure work here in Ontario. You know, last year it was all the bridges, all of our little bridges on the back roads, and everything that hadn't been done recently and that wasn't in wonderful shape got redone. That's pretty amazing, eh? Sometimes I think what would happen if we didn't have a grader, if nobody was caring for our road, how long would our road last? Sometimes we get huge washouts up by our house. The water comes down from above and it makes huge gullies across our lane, or across the road, on the road down in front of our lane. And then sometimes if you don't watch, when the water is starting to trickle down and it starts to fork, one of those, you know, like one little pebble in the way and it'll fork, and then you get this other line that'll go across the road, it'll dig a huge rut. But if you stay on top of it, if you go for a walk every day and you make sure that all those little forks are not there, they're just tiny at the beginning, just little trickle. Anyway, but you fix them up. That's a good analogy for life experiences, isn't it? Go down the wrong path, and at first it's just a little bit on the wrong path, but the more you go on the wrong path, even if it's in your brain, you know, the thoughts that we have, how it builds ruts in your brain so that when you think of this, it automatically triggers all these other thoughts and feelings and reactions. As soon as you have an emotion, it lets out a chemical in your system. So once a chemical's in your system, I don't think you can just turn it off. You know, you got to let it kind of wear out. It's better not to find yourself doing that. Life experiences, Anyway, this is, you know, I only take the path of least resistance. Well, yes, we do, don't we? But also the water does. I'm so thirsty this morning. I don't know why. But I bought some water. I bought one of those little 5-hour energy drinks. I think they're not too bad for you. They're filled with vitamin B. B vitamins. Let's see, I can't do this with holding it. And I found out a few things last night when we went through security again. I'm not sure how come we ended up having to go through security. I guess because the can app, the Arrive Can app was all outside of, I don't know what happened. Anyway, we had to come through security to get back to that gate last night. And if we hadn't had to do that, we would have made the flight. But it wasn't important that I take off my shoes because they're moccasins. And I wasn't wearing any metal, except I have 2 metal hips, which of course they had to scan me for with the wand. You know, they have to go down your arms and down your legs and the other arm, and then they touch you and pat your side where it beeped. Anyway, but then they had to take we had to have the laptops. There were too many things in one container. And I think things had been put in quickly, right? And so they had to go back through because one thing had been on top of another thing, so they couldn't see through it. And Willem brought scissors in his little whatever bag, and they had come through on the way there and on the way back. And yes, last night going in, they had to check them last night, and they allowed them to go. But this morning they didn't allow them to go. So it's all very objective, isn't it? Subjective? Objective. Depends on what the person feels like looking into. If they think, oh yeah, that's fine. Anyway, they'll let you bring on knitting needles if they're short, but scissors have to be like less than that wide, less than the width of a credit card or something. Or like his tag. That's right. He took his tag and he measured it against the tag. Also, you can bring on little bottles of water, liquid, as long as it's less than 100 milliliters. So I bought a little energy drink because I was kind of still overtired this morning. Didn't sleep all that well. But I did sleep really well when I did sleep. It was such a comfortable bed with pillows. It was really lovely. That's why I like putting comforters under the bottom sheet. Makes it really nice. This is so hot. Now, supposedly, you shouldn't be able to get air through it. So that shouldn't cool my mouth, but it does. Even though this is an N95 mask and it's all nice and tight.
Well, if you get any air through it, then you suffocate. There's always some air that needs to get through, right?
Right. You're not supposed to be able to blow out a candle.
This one is not very good. If they're really good, if they're really
Yours
good,
is falling down now. It's getting very loose. It's well used. I think you have to tighten your thing there so that you can suffocate
if you
properly.
go really quickly, rapidly in and out, you should be able to feel and see this moving out, in and out, and in and out, in and out.
And your glasses should steam up. It's all designed to make you as uncomfortable as possible, but also to keep you healthy and everyone else. Or you could just take it off when nobody's around, as long as you're not going to get in trouble for that. But I'm not an anti-masker. I think masks are good as long as they're not N95 tight ones. So this has been an interesting little experience. So last night we missed our flight and we got a room. I called different places, and every time I called a place I was checking the prices, and the one in the hotel was $4.99, or the one in the airport was $4.99, and the one that, we're at the Toronto International Airport. It's called Pearson International. It's YOW. Yow. No, YOW is Ottawa. YYZ
Yeah,
is Toronto. So we're here, we're early, but last night we met these people who we had met on the plane. 2 of them had been on our plane from Amsterdam, or from Schiphol, and they had met somebody who was also trying to book a hotel. They overheard each other, and they ended up getting together and getting a hotel at the same place, and getting a taxi. And then it was going to cost them $30 for the taxi, and with us it was going to cost $50. So we all decided to go together, so we each paid our $11 each. That was pretty good. I think it was $55 or something.
Please wear your mask at all times and maintain a safe distance from others whenever possible.
There was no safe distancing this night. But at least everybody had on masks, you know. But it certainly is a little petri dish. All these people from different countries coming. I guess it was all international travelers there. They would all come. That's why they had to do the app. Fill out the form. Oh well. They have an election soon. Everybody thinks that if one thing goes bad, that you should get somebody else in office. I don't know. I think they do their best. I think they really try to do what will be best for the people and to help the people, but it doesn't always work out that way. Like at the very beginning when they locked the whole world down, I mean, this was a deadly virus that was killing people left, right, and center. Oh, and so this other girl that was with the couple last night, turns out she was a police officer from New York City. I never knew that till this morning when I asked her something. She never mentioned what her job was. She said she couldn't move out of New York because of her job right now, but the crime rate in New York has gone way up. There were 3 shootings in one night last night, and they're being done by youth, 18 and under, 18 to 13-year-olds. Isn't that terrible? Maybe it has to do with all of the games, the first-person shooter games.
Yeah, that's maybe part of it. Also, people are really close together, like rats. If you put the rats in really close together, they all fight each other and kill each other. Like if you live in a 20th floor of an apartment somewhere in Manhattan, a tiny apartment, no way to go anywhere, and you have to stay in. That really, it really does something to you, I think. Really great, that we live in a place where we can actually take a walk outside without risking COVID.
Or seeing anybody.
Seeing anybody, yeah.
Of course, we like people. It's nice to see everybody on here. We're all safe, aren't we? I'd like to think that COVID was over. If all of the bad strains are gone, will Omicron, which is a nice, easy, very contagious, but not very harmful strain, if that has taken over all the other strains, then all the mutations are going to come from that. So will you get mutations that are really bad?
It's possible, yeah. A mutation is mutation, so something is can change drastically. No guarantee that it'll be that the next mutation will be benign. So that's why it's a good thing that people are getting vaccinated and.
Oh, we're allowed to get vaccinated now, again, boosted.
Oh, is that right? It's the 4th
So you've
shot?
had 2, have you? You've had.
I have 3.
You have 3, and I have 3.
Yeah.
It should be 3 months from the last one, right? Something like that. Because after 3 months, it doesn't do much of any good. Well, I think it must do a bit of good. Survival of the fastest shooter, like we have gone back to the Old West. Yeah, actually, I think you're right. That's right. I'm so glad I don't live down there. I'm glad I live in Canada. Canada is really pretty good. It's really good. I don't have to worry about pickpockets or... my purse was partly open and there was $20 kind of hanging part way out. And that was like that while we were in that crowd, I think. And it was still there. People just are not interested in doing, they're pretty honorable here. Canadians, the politeness and the courtesy goes a lot further than just that, I think it's character, having nice character. Did you see that movie, Lady of the Manor? It was really neat. It was this girl that had no morals, that had just gotten a job as a tour guide at this place just because some guy she met at the bar he was sort of going to have to be in charge of the estate, and he didn't want to, and so he wanted somebody else to do it. So he hired her. And then the ghost, the original lady of the manor, was there when she was giving tour guides and was saying, "No, how dare you? How dare you do that here? How dare you say that?" You know, and so then they ended up getting together, and she took lessons from her, and so she would accompany her on the tours, and she would say, "That's my mother," and then she would give a little story, and so the girl would relate it and all this stuff, and she'd say the F word or something. Next thing you know, there was a lady of the manor, and there's she, and she's standing there with a bar of soap in her mouth, you know. And one of the times she's finally chewing on the bar of soap. Remember the days when you used to get your mouth washed out with soap if you said the F word or something? But now I guess that's a crime to wash somebody's mouth out with soap. Times are so different, eh? Oh, and then we watched this other one, this other show, which was, I watched some, an American Pickle. I started to tell you about this last night. So this guy falls into a vat of pickles. He's from Slovakia or somewhere, and the Russians are coming, and the Russians, there was a name for them. I can't remember what it was. It wasn't Russian. There was another borscht, or I don't know, something. I thought it would start with a B. Anyway, but he ends up, I think that they come in and destroy his little tiny village, and his dream in life before he dies is to taste seltzer water, and her dream is to be able to afford a tombstone. So then he falls in this vat. He's trying to kill the rats, and he's backing up because they're all coming at him, and he falls in. And then like a moment later, somebody pushes the lid over and says, "The factory is shutting down." And they turn on everybody out. They turn the lights out, and everybody comes out. Crime to verbally assault also. Used to be a crime, didn't it? It is in Canada. Hate speech is a crime. There's no free speech in Canada. You can say all the nice things you want to say, but you can't be hateful to people because of anything, their race, religion, orientation, all these things that people like to be angry at each other about. Hate speech is forbidden. Verboden. Oh, I said, yeah, about children, I guess, verbal assault. A lot of people don't realize how words affect each other, you know? But if you've got a child that's a bully and another child that's quiet, it's almost impossible to correct that bully child. I mean, it's just, unless they want to correct themselves. You know, teach a child correct principles and they will govern themselves. Well, if they want to, if they don't want to, they're going to do what they want until experience teaches them that's a bad way. But that I found was very difficult as a parent, to have a bully and a quiet child who were like that all the time. It was really, really sad. Oh well. So it is now, what time? It is 9:20. Our flight is at noon. We came early this morning because we wanted to get a ride back with the other people.
And they had early
And they had an
flights,
early flight. They were going up to New Brunswick or Nova Scotia or somewhere. Moncton, New Brunswick. New Brunswick is north of Maine. It's between Maine and Quebec, or Maine and Newfoundland, Maine and Nova Scotia. What's next to New Brunswick? Is that
Maine is surrounded by New Brunswick and the east, I think, Quebec in the north, and yeah, maybe Vermont or something. Anyway, so yeah, Nova Scotia, I'm not sure that it borders Maine. Anyway, so
Nova Scotia? No, what's after Nova Scotia? What's on the other side of Nova Scotia? I mean, what's on the other side of New Brunswick? So Maine is on one side.
Then you got Nova Scotia. Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
New Brunswick and Nova Scotia.
Okay, and what else is if you go not into Nova Scotia from New Brunswick, but I guess it's Quebec.
Yeah, you can go to Quebec from New Brunswick. Yeah.
My parents took us around the Gaspé. You know, I'll tell you some stories. When we were little, my parents used to devise these trips for us. And I never realized it, but 1967, we lived in Georgia, and my dad wanted to take us to the World's Fair. I guess that was in New York. Was that the New York World's Fair? No.
Wasn't that the expo in Montreal?
Oh, Expo 67, yeah, Montreal. Oh, that's right. And we had all of our camping gear stolen out of the back of our station wagon. My parents had to go and rebuy everything at a Sears store in Montreal. That was interesting because Montreal is a pretty safe city, you know, I think.
Yeah, but it's a big city. So like all big cities, there is some.
Well, and I guess also
noticeable.
Expo was going on. So there's a lot of people with a lot of stuff in their cars.
Lots of people seek opportunities to pickpocket as tourists, I guess.
Well, anyway, not pickpocket maybe, but. So in 1967 we went and did that, and it's just lately that I realized, or the World's Fair. What years was the New York World's Fair?
I'm not sure when that was.
That must have been before 67, but we moved to Georgia in 63. But we went to the New York World's Fair. I don't know when it was. Maybe it was 65. Maybe it was 64. But anyway, we would go back to New York a lot at the beginning because, you know, that's the way it is when you move to a place. You have no friends, you have no family, so you always go back to what's familiar. But then after a while, you make new friends and have more family, and so you don't end up going back as much as visiting the ones that are around you. It always happens. Moving is hard. But in my church, hi Tyler, thank you. I hope you two have a safe trip back. Yes, me too. You know, I fixed the wheel on this suitcase. It's kind of a rolly deal suitcase, as you can imagine. I'll show you it. So there's the wheel, and look at that. The glue is holding perfectly. It hasn't moved at all. I put the tape on just in case the glue breaks, and the tape will hold it at least. I won't lose it somewhere. And there's holes in here too, but it's, you know, it could have broken in all of that pushing it along last night or dragging it quickly. And you know, that would just have made it so much more difficult to deal with if it had broken the wheel off. But it didn't. The Lord really blessed me. I didn't think that super glue was going to hold it, but it did. And then when they were filling up that KLM plane, and more people got on, like there was 100 people between my seat, like there were 10 rows, they were all filled, and there were 10 rows up, or 10 seats in a row, and 10 rows between me and the middle aisle. And then beyond that, there was first class, and behind me there were more people. In fact, they had two big runways to get into the plane, you know, those tunnel things like that. They had two of them, one going to the front of the plane and one going to the back, and so there was somebody at the intersection telling you which one you were going to go to. There's free Wi-Fi here. Should probably be using it instead of my data. Another thing to think about. Well, it seemed like we were running, but we weren't. I was walking with very big strides. If you make a long stride, you can cover 1.5 times the distance, or maybe even twice the distance if you can. And then it's as if you're running. I did that on the treadmill when I was getting my heart tested. Made it seem like I was going very fast, but I really wasn't. That was really kind of disappointing when we got there, and they'd already closed the gate, and the plane was still right there, and there were 3 of us waiting, and then there were 7 more people or 6 more people coming towards us. trying to catch that flight. So I guess it's a fault of the airport. It's not a fault of the airline. So KLM is not liable for our room. It would be the airport. And there is a group called the Airport Passenger Protection Agency. And they protect passengers from having to do that, like spend lots of money. And I guess it's a federal agency, and you can get reimbursed up to $200 for your room.
Please wear your mask at all times and maintain a safe distance from others whenever possible. À l'aéroport Pearson de Toronto, nous avons mis en œuvre une approche polyvalente dans le but de protéger la santé de nos passagers et de nos employés. Veuillez porter votre masque en tout temps et rester à distance sur des autres s'il est possible de le faire.
It's interesting, when you're in Holland, you hear it in Dutch and English or on the plane. And then when you come here to Canada, you hear it in, well, some places in Canada, you hear it like if you're on a train, even the airport trains, sometimes it'll say it in Chinese and English. In Vancouver, you heard Chinese a lot, because that's the West Coast, which is closer to China. So the grass here has not greened up yet, but there is no snow, and it's dried out. So it's not, spring thaw is officially over. This is the lull between spring thaw and spring. So there's this little dry time, and you wait for it to rain and clean off the trees. Hi, Rose. Hello, hello. They speak French in Canada. It's a second language. So it's federal. So everything federal has to be in two languages. All the federal signs, road signs, exit signs, and all those buses, all the signs on the roads have to be French and English if it's a federal road. If it's a local road, they don't. But once you get into eastern Ontario, on the east side of Ottawa, everything is French there, and then you're right into Quebec, and it's pretty French, except Montreal. Montreal is half English. That's why they can't separate, because Montreal, whenever they vote on it, there's a huge Anglo population, half of it or so. There's also a lot of Spanish, but not really enough to, I mean, probably no more Spanish than there is Urdu, and there's 500 Indian languages. What do you think of that statement?
I don't know whether it's true. There's definitely a lot of Spanish, not as much as French, obviously. And I am trying to learn their language.
He's
Look,
reading this in Spanish.
Harry Potter y la piedra filosofal. There you go.
Read us a few lines.
Well, let's see. Well, some juicy sentences.
Just any sentence, start at the beginning.
Okay. Tienes que comer algo para el desayuno. No quiero nada. This is Harry who didn't want to eat breakfast before his Quidditch match. There you go.
That's all you get, and that's what she wrote. And that's what he read. Willem has read all of the Harry Potter books to us. He started, good on you, Willem, she said.
Oh, cool.
He's learning Spanish, and so he has to practice. He's such an academic person. He's really an inspiration to me. I come in the living room, and he's got on his calculus stuff on the television. He's trying to figure out, or trigonometry or geometry. He's trying to figure out this part of the square that's got several strange shaped angles, and he's got to figure out what this line is worth. It's so interesting. I remember loving doing that when I was young. It made my brain work. Now that part of my brain is just turned to mush. You know, I can count to 10, but don't try to get me to add them up. Subtraction was always my downfall. I've told you that before, though, you know that. Especially when you cross the 100 mark. Boy, when you go from 10s to 100s, if you're adding 12 or 7 and you're crossing 100, oh, forget it, I'm lost. Or if you're counting, like, how many years have I lived in Canada? Well, it started in 1977 and we're in 2022. So having to go from 1977 to 2022, you're crossing the hundreds. And that just baffles me. The only way I can do it is to go 76, 86, 96, 106, 116, 126. And then it's 26 take away 4. So that's 50 take away 4 is 46. That's simple. That's the way I'd like to do that. Ellen, finally, my lavender. The 2 different batches came up the same. Stratifying made no difference. What is stratifying? You girls are talking so much on here when I'm not noticing. You're learning so much about growing lavender. It's sure taking a long time, isn't it? Maybe that's why my lavender never came up when I planted it in the garden. I planted so many seeds in the garden that never came up. Or that I might have killed, not realizing that they were up. You're supposed to not wipe your eyes. Put them in the fridge for a month, stratifying. Cold treatment. Well, I was gonna grow fir trees. So I put pine cones outside. Put all these pine cones outside. So I'm gonna try and germinate them. Maybe I'll make a nice row of them in my garden and then transplant them. I don't really do well on transplanting them. You haven't seen the Harry Potter movies. Have you read the books? The books have so much more in them than the book story, the movies. The movies, like they bounce. You might get 10 interesting parts, but in the book you get 1,000 interesting parts. Just the first one. You read the book, yes. It might make the difference in the flowering. Oh, I see, stratifying it. Yeah. I remember when I was in Georgia trying to grow a peach tree from a peach pit, and you had to put it in the fridge for a few months, and then I think it worked. I think I did successfully germinate a peach tree. We're still traveling, eh? This is a long time. We left yesterday. It was interesting this morning in security. We're getting smarter, We took all the things out of our suitcase and put them in separate trays that they would want. Like the mask thing, what is that thing called? The CCAP. I was so tired last night when I saw you finally getting a hotel last night. Felt your pain. You know what was really the hardest thing in that whole thing was when I was walking in the hotel, they had those striped lines, and then there were lights on the walls going this way, and there were lights that way, and it was, and it just made me dizzy. Just the way that what is that called? A visual, not an apparition, a visual, not a mirage. Something, anyway. When the visuals mess you up. And there was another, that one made me so dizzy. Yeah, $50 for a taxi. Well, the hotel was like 20 minutes away from the airport. So if you think about taking a 20-minute taxi ride on an expressway and the price of gas now, boy, Oma's little Peugeot, this little car, that was so good on gas. We drove all over the place, and in all of the 2 weeks we were there at her house, actually 3 weeks and 2.5 weeks in Holland, we used about a quarter of a tank of gas. Unbelievable. Maybe a little more than a quarter. I loved driving that little car. It was so tight, no play in the wheel, no sloppy, and it was so little. And I was feeling like I was going to be thrown off into the water. There was one road we went on. I really wanted to film it for you, but I had stopped. Oh, thank you. She says I was good at it. There was one road that I wanted to film. And it was such a nice little, beautiful country road. It was farms on either side. And then there was this tiny little village, which I think all those properties had land. So they were all farms. And a farm in Holland is extremely expensive, and you don't generally get a rental. So you have to own it. So living in the country in Germany or in Holland just doesn't happen because I feel like moving to the country, But there were ditches everywhere, and they were full to the top with water. Oh, there's a little girl running, and her ponytail on the top of her head looks like that little bird I was filming earlier. See that that looks like a chipmunk, doesn't it? It's not, it's this little girl's ponytail. Isn't that the cutest thing ever? It's gone. Where'd she go? Oh, there it is. Isn't that cute? It's right there in front of the black. Watching this little girl's ponytail. It looks like a little chipmunk running along the top of the thing. Oh, time for a diaper change. Okay, we won't watch her anymore. Not that we can see it. Hello, Willem.
Hi everyone.
So what are you thinking about? How's it going?
Fine. I'm just taking a break from the attention I have to pay to the Harry Potter in Spanish. So my brain is a little fuzzy at the moment.
Oh, you had my videos on while you learned to bind books. I remember trying to learn to bind books. I did some of them on here. We were in Palmyra. There was a book bindery or whatever, and they had made these big pages that were the size of newsprint. And then you had to fold them and sew them and then cut the edges. You make a book out of little packets of, like if you took newsprint and you folded it a whole bunch of times and then sewed it in. There goes the little ponytail again. Where is it now? There it is. Oh, it's attached to the child. It's so cute watching it move along. Doesn't it look like a little chipmunk or a squirrel? Well, now it's a child. I guess I can't film a child. What a cute little person, eh? Anyway, so I'm hoping that signatures are what the little packets are called, making book. Yes, signatures. That was kind of fun doing that. I did a lot of them. Wonder whatever happened to them. Went the way of all the things. My journals, I could make signatures out of them. Used to print them. I have a live journal. Yeah, it would be on there, binding books. Nancy Today, binding books or signatures or how to make a book or how to bind a book or sewing books, you know, whatever, something like that. Or maybe just Nancy Today books. Who knows what that'll bring up. Boy, there are so many videos on so many subjects, you know. And as we talk about things, junk journals, art journals, what I'm going for, like for your sketches. Neat. Yeah, I wonder if my sketchbook is done like that. Let's see. Where's my purse? Oh, hi, Nan B. Sorry to keep you up so late last night. Yeah, this has signatures. Well, I'm enjoying my drawing. I'm having fun drawing. I think I'm improving. This is my bride here. This was fun, trying to do this, a bird that was kind of trying to open his wings out. He was sitting in the sun, but that's his beak. He turned his head backwards. Thank you. This is in the flight. That's the back of the seat. That's my phone. Yeah, those two birds in the airport, that was cute. Oh, that's the last one I did, I guess. I imagine I have all these great photos or things, but not really. I like this. This looks really good. I was really paying good attention to the shape of the lines. Yeah, this one was fun to do. I took a whole series of photos of them. And so every time they moved, I had a new picture. This one with the pigeons. I was trying to do the pigeons before they moved. This one was too quick, and my lines were wrong, of course. And this one didn't really look like a pigeon.
Looks like a snail to me.
Looks like a snail to you, Willem. Thank you, Willem.
Always happy to compliment.
I'm so lucky to have him. He keeps me humble. I heard a talk the other day.
Toronto Pearson, we've deployed
Oh, I remember it was by Dolly Parton.
to protect the health of our passengers
And
employees.
and Dolly was
Please
saying,
wear your mask
she
at
loves
all
you, Willem.
times and maintain a safe distance from others whenever possible.
Dolly was saying that she grew up in Tennessee in the mountains, in the Smoky Mountains. And when they put a statue of her up in her town, and she was so proud of it. She kept talking about it. This is wonderful. Wasn't this cool? Wasn't this cool? And she was so proud of it. But she was pretty humble. She just thought it was so cool that they had done that for her. And her father said, "Yes, Dolly, it is nice, but you are still just another outhouse." Boom, that'll keep you humble. Dolly was saying that the first time that she went to New York City, she went with a friend, and they couldn't afford much. They didn't dress like they dress now, she said. This was years ago. And it was her first time there, and she just started singing. She was just getting a little bit of recognition, not much, just a little bit. And they went there, and the two girls, they shared a room because they didn't have much. And they went out and they came back, and when they came back, their bags had been taken out of their rooms and put out, and they were locked out. And they weren't allowed, they thought that they were turning tricks in their room, that they were hookers. Imagine thinking Dolly Parton was a hooker. Can you imagine that? Poor girl. Going to New York City. Can you imagine going when you're young and no experience and you barely have decent clothes to go to town, you know? And then they put you out because they think you're a hooker. What a story. She was on being interviewed by somebody. It was one of those YouTube interviews. I like those old interviews. You know what would be fun would be to watch the Ed Sullivan Show and see Topo Gigio. You remember Topo Gigio? Raise your hand if you remember Topo Gigio. Press like if you remember, or put a comment in there. That's your homework. If you've seen Topo Gigio, tell me about him. I was pretty young back then. Lily was telling us all these stories. She was telling us about all the pets that they had and all the things that happened with the pets that they had. It was quite funny. You know, she lived in the jungle. She was born and raised in Indonesia. Gonna watch you on TV now. No chat. We'll check in with you later. Sweet girl. Glad you are on my side of the pond. Love and hugs. Well, I'm glad I'm on this side too, because now we can talk to each other. Before, I was talking to the air. They still play it today, Ed Sullivan, eh? The Ed Sullivan Show. And you know, what did the Walt Disney used to look like? Goodbye, Rose. Thanks for chatting. The Walt Disney Show used to have Walt Disney's Wonderful World of Color with all the sparkles behind the castle. And then they had, I don't know what kind of shows they were, but they were really good. And then they started making these nature programs, always with animals or something. And they were okay, but they weren't the same. It wasn't the same as Walt Disney was. Was it animation? Is that what they had stopped doing, was the animation? I can't remember, but I remember the when Walt Disney was alive, when Walt was in charge of everything. Such a nice, clean show. Well, now that I've talked myself silly, hi, Willem. What
Hey
are you
there.
thinking about now?
Nothing. I
Just listening to the amazing and interesting
a
conversations.
little bit, yeah.
And what do you have thoughts about things?
Not really. My brain is too fuzzy to have much thoughts at the moment. I guess my lack of sleep is catching up to me again.
Oh. Well, we have energy drinks for that.
I took a sip, yeah. For a while it helped a little bit. I'll maybe have another sip later.
That's the trouble with these things, is you have to keep sipping them or else you fall asleep. Oh well. It's better than drinking Coke. Coke has no B vitamins. Or Bull, whatever it is.
Red Bull.
No,
Okay. It's the only Bull soft drink or soft Bull energy drink that I know.
no, it's
Red
one
Bull.
of the additives in there. There's Bull stuff.
Bull stuff.
Yeah, is it testosterone or something? I don't know if that's what it is. Something in
There is
there.
this taurine. I think it might come from a bull. Taurine. But I'm not sure what it is.
Taurine, yeah.
Taurine, yeah.
What is taurine? If I had my Google, I'd ask. You could see the reflection of everything in here. You know, speaking of reflections, it was amazing. Disney is going to build low-income apartments and free daycare in Florida. Wow. Wow. Well, that sounds nice. I never went to Disney. I thought it was a huge ripoff. I thought it was I was reading Twitter about Disney and stuff they had said and what people thought about it, and they were saying, well, you've lost my $1,000 a year or $10,000 a year. I don't know. If I had $10,000 to blow, I wouldn't go to Disney. I would go to Antarctica. It was interesting to be in Holland, but that's over now, eh? But it was really interesting, and I've gained a lot from it. I know a lot more Dutch words now. And I still have my Dutch classes I can take online. When we came out of the hotel this morning, the area outside, oh, free daycare for the employees, of course, yes. Oops. Yeah, that's good. Daycare really is hard, difficult for working people. I used to think that if all the women just stayed home and take care of their kids, then the prices of houses wouldn't be so high, but they are so high because you've got two incomes and they can afford it. So they've kind of worked themselves into this corner where now they have to both work. But then, of course, they want to work. People don't like to hang out at home because they don't have all this creative energy, that they have all these things that they want to do that take up too much time to be able to have a job. Alas. I think Willem's getting tired of listening to me talk. Are you getting tired of listening to me talk?
You can talk on.
I can talk on? Is it entertaining in any way?
Sometimes, but I don't always follow it very closely. So I'm focusing in and out.
And can you blame him? No. So I had an idea I was going to draw things while I was in the airport. Hey, you know what I could draw? If you look at this, let's see this. Turn around, turn around. Okay, now, oops, that thing is broken and keeps falling in front of that. Now look at the lines. Look at how the lines go like that. And that goes like that, and that goes like that. Everything, so the point, the center is right there. And everything reaches that point. So if you draw a line from these and those, everything would reach a point right there. And so, but this has got a curve, you see? So that would be interesting to draw this pillar and 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 this pillar. And then those pillars, and have it make it look like its distance. And so here you got one that's this high, and the next one's only that high. So it's what, 2/3? And the next one, I can't really tell where the bottom is, but anyway, so the difference in the top, you've got that much, and then you've only got that much. And then you've got that much. And that one looks almost the same, and that one does look the same. And so here again, you've got this much, and then that much, and then that much, and then that much, and then that much. And the size of the squares. You see, they're not really square. Like if you look at them straight up, they're pretty square. But when you look at them at an angle, they're not square at all. Now they're rectangles, right? This is closer to a square. That's closest, but they become skinnier and skinnier rectangles until they're just little lines. So you've got 1, 2, 3. So this is the thickness of this. is twice that. And this one is twice that. And this one is twice that. No, it's 3 times or 4 times that. And then, so how do you draw that? Because it's not, it's like it's always changing the amounts. So that is actually the same amount as this, right? Only to draw it, you have to draw it. And not only are you making this, but this side is like that, and the other side, well, if you put it like that, you see it's not an equilateral triangle. Is that an isosceles triangle? So you have to make the triangles, the sides of the triangles have to change. Anyway, I like doing that. It'd be best if you could see the bottoms of them all. You know, the same thing with the chairs. So you first see, you can see the whole thing. Pretty soon they're just lines. Anyway, my son likes to draw stuff like that, and he uses rulers and things. It makes all of his lines very straight, which makes it look perfect. But I like to do it freehand, so everything is a little crooked. Do you draw? Who out there draws? And did that help you at all by telling you that? Was that an interesting fact to tell you? Me with my limitless number of thoughts that I share. It's almost just like verbal diarrhea, isn't it? So Lily was telling us these stories about her pets, her children's pets. So there was a white mouse, or a mouse, that Lute had, and it got loose and got into the couch, and she couldn't get it out. And then it stunk in the couch, and she couldn't stand it. I don't know what the end result was but that was the mouse. And then they had the walking stick, those little walking sticks. And what did she say about the walking sticks?
What is the other one? I think they got hurt or something, or killed, or...
I think she got lots of baby walking sticks, didn't they?
Yeah, I remember the sign saying it now, yes. Baby
And they didn't want to let them loose because they would all get eaten outside? But
yeah.
then you pointed out that they live outside?
Oh, that's right. She didn't want to leave them loose because she was afraid that they might not survive the winter. But around our house we have walking sticks and they do just fine. They come back year after year, so unless it's a different species of it, I don't think we have to worry.
And I was asking her about her life in Indonesia. And most people in Indonesia had grass or had bamboo houses. But
The poor ones,
the
yeah.
poor ones, but she was Dutch, and so the Dutch were the colonizing country, and so they were they had money, and so they hired servants, and so they always had servants when she grew up, and so her mother never learned how to cook or clean or do anything. And then after the war, they were all made to go in this area together, and so neighbors knew that they were going to start gathering together and they were going to protect them from the Japanese, they said. And so they put all the Dutch in this neighborhood, and then they put more and more people until there were 40 people in a house. But she had her 2 best friends there, or 3 best friends, her girlfriends, and she was 16. And then it was no longer to protect them, it was the Japanese. That was a concentration camp, and the Japanese worked them very hard and made them carry very heavy things. And her mother was in there with her, and her friends, and her neighbors, and all the people that lived in her neighborhood. They were all stuffed in there together. And they didn't have much food at all, and had 1 bathroom in the house. And the bathrooms in Holland, they don't have water. Everything doesn't drop underwater.
What are you talking about? The bathrooms in the camp or the bathrooms in Holland?
In her house, when she was in the camp, when there were
Right.
40 people in the camp.
Right, so what does that have to do with Holland then?
Well, because in Holland, the toilets generally don't have water above what you do in them. It doesn't fall under the water, and so the smell is horrendous. Now you use air freshener immediately after you go to the bathroom, before it flushes or after it flushes. The air stinks. So you spray the air freshener. Hello, Angela's Homestead. But back then it wasn't the case. Not while
Okay.
they were in that
Oh,
place.
there's a bigger bird there now, I think.
Now what have we got here?
Over there is a bigger bird, like bigger than a sparrow. I'm not sure. I didn't get a chance to see what it was. Really. The pillars are in the way.
Well, let's.
Maybe it'll move this way. Oh, there's over there now
At
somewhere.
Toronto Pearson, we've deployed a multi-layered approach to protect the health of our passengers and employees.
I don't see it.
Or maybe
Please
it's a
wear your
reflection
mask
of the
at all
glass. It's
times
possible it's a
and
reflection from a
maintain
bird
a safe
outside.
distance from others whenever possible. À l'aéroport Pearson de Toronto,
I can take a look.
nous
I'm
avons
gonna
mis en œuvre une approche polyvalente
All right.
dans le but de protéger la santé de nos passagers
Away he goes.
et de nos employés. Veuillez porter votre masque en tout temps et rester à distance sur des autres s'il est possible de le faire.
See, I know French just because I've heard it all the time. I can't speak a word of it, but I know what they're saying. A lot of words sound like English. Anyway, so we're almost home. 12 o'clock we leave here. We go to Ottawa, and then we go home. Unless we stay and play Minecraft. I don't know. Willem might be in a hurry to get home. All right, I'm going to let you guys go. It's nice to see you all. And remember, homework. Got to put in the comments if you like sketching, and how, if you learned anything from what I told you about how to sketch these things.
Is this where they get a credit in the Nancy Today University?
Oh, that's right. This could be work towards your credit for Nancy Today University, which is not like the online universities you've heard of. What you get for a graduate is you get a bag with your Nancy Today NTU on the bag, and maybe I'll paint the teacup trail for you. So let me know when you think you've graduated, but you're going to have to do your homework. Put in the comments those things you've learned, so I know that you've really learned something. Okay, goodbye.